our third visit to the professional version of Midnight Terror. Former home haunt, it's been professional now. This is the third year, and this is the biggest location ever. Was the third time the charm?
Yes, definitely. Third time was great. I know every year it started out as was a Hall of Fame home haunt, fantastic, and then they went professional. It was still good, but they, as each year it's getting better and better. And this year was great. I really enjoyed it. Um, there were a lot of some unique things in it because when you're going in and out of the rooms, there's an outdoor scene. So you're outside and you see actors like zombies or whatever, various actors, and you see them as you're walking through these outside scenes. So you're not with them yet, but you see them as you're through the walkthrough down the way. And I thought that was pretty cool. That was unique, and the sets were really good with that. So I really enjoyed that. We had an actor that just kept popping in from room to room. He was great. And there were a lot of good things about it. I mean, it's too much to mention. I know Brian will talk more about all the different things, but I really enjoyed it. And then they have that unique chainsaw ending, which they had it last year and they did it again this year, which I really enjoyed too. And this time they had where for the parking, you actually could take a shuttle bus, so it's kind of like you have an actor with you on the bus that's entertaining as well. But I really enjoyed it this year. I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay, Jim, what did you think?
Well, this is, as you mentioned, a brand new location, and I thought the ambition and the scope of this venue really worked in its favor. I mean, it's hard to imagine. Just a few short years ago, it went from an 800 square foot facility now to 26,000. I mean, it's incredible. But with that said, I mean, the huge increase in space was very, very well made use of. There were no stretches where something wasn't happening. I mean, the action was constant. And one thing that I think you really note in a very well done haunt is just a thread that runs through that is a consistent theme. You have actors that aren't one note or shrill or basically repetitive. In this instance, I thought what really stood out is a number of the actors would appear in one scene and disappear, and then a few scenes later reappear. They came at you in waves, which I thought was very effective. And for me, a few of the standouts were a street scene where you kind of approached it from the beginning, and you got a sort of a lay of the land. You could see in the distance, you could see actors sort of approaching you and coming at you, and then you disappeared down another corridor and then came back onto that set. And I just thought it was very well staged, and like I say, the actors were very, very much into the performance, and really I thought delivered. It was a very effective use of the set. A couple of them, including one that involved like an acid bath that was very unique. Never seen that before, and of course, having been to many haunts, it's really something to say at this point if you come across a scene that's that unique. And in general, like I say, there were really very few scenes that really disappointed at all. I thought it was very well done. Maybe in terms of areas of improvement. I mean, I think the space in terms of parking accommodation might have been a bit limited. Again, in light of the fact that this is a huge structure, that maybe down the road additional accommodations could be made, because in this instance we took a shuttle to and from, which certainly added to the length. But in terms of cost versus length of haunt, it really is very, very much at the high end of a true value experience. And I would say 4.5 chainsaw rating, only because I think there's continued room for development and improvement. And I think the ambition is there, and I can definitely see good things for this haunt in the future.
Okay, Midnight Terror, again, third year as a professional haunt. Their biggest location so far, 26,000 square feet, which really rivals some of the larger haunts that we go to. I have to say, the first year, I was not overly impressed with it. It seemed a lot of empty space. The second year was better, but when I heard they were moving to a bigger location this year, I thought, are we going to go back to the empty space? But I'm happy to say that they did not go back to the empty space. It was very well done in terms of sets. Very few empty areas, if any, actually. Some very detailed sets, good set pieces in there. As Laura mentioned, one of the interesting things is when you first walk in, there's a section where if you look down to your left, you can see all the way down to the other end of the haunt. And there are buildings on the left and on the right. And it's almost like a Wild West town almost, like you've seen the old movies where you have buildings on the left, buildings on the right, and two guys are having a gunfight in between, and you can see what's going on. Well, this is very similar because you look all the way down and you see these buildings outside the buildings, and then people are in between each one, and you're eventually going to wind through all of them. It was kind of neat to see this sort of street scene inside a building. And some of the characters were very effective, including this crazy guy in between in this street scene. He kept coming up to us talking about the voices in his head, and they're talking to him, and they're gonna get him, and they're gonna get us. And every now and then, every time we turned around the corner, there he was again. Like we'd pass him again, and two sections down he'd be back again. He'd pop up and he'd still be talking about the voices in his head. Nice characterization, nice way to stay in character over and over. And I like that. That's one of the things I really like about certain haunts, is that they have these actors repeat these actions in different places. So when you enjoy an actor, you can get to see the actor again. And speaking of that, Laura mentioned an actor that kept following us around. He was very good too. He was part of the Wade Entertainment. He was outside, but he was also inside. And he kept picking on Laura, and he kept saying to the actors that were in there, "Get the one in the back." He kept pointing because Laura was in the back. Very amusing, very entertaining. Additionally, some other actors, there were some girls with these giant claws for hands, very good. There was a section, looked like a rat's maze, with different holes at different levels where actors can slip in and out of, and you had to wind your way through it. And there was a guy in there, he had a mask on, and he had like this big power tool in his hand. And when we first walked in, he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, it's me!" And we laughed. And as we were walking through the maze, he would slip in and out, and he'd pop up, and he's like, "It's me again. Yeah, that's right, I'm back." And I laughed every single time he did it. He did it like 4 times. And finally, at the end of the maze, he's like, "I'm still here. It's me again." And I thought, wow, this is great. So characterizations like that we really like. There's a toy room with sort of a woman who's a living doll. There is a demon room, a separate section with this giant demon on a podium who's speaking in this dialect, and these satanic sort of minions all around him. Very well done. Overall, very good. There are some weak spots. I have to point out at the very beginning when we first go in there, it's sort of a military setting, and they put you up against the wall. They make you recite your ABCs. To be frank, it goes on a little bit too long. Not overly interesting. And then when we walked in the very first section, there was a sort of a ghoulish military guy, and he was speaking to us, saying something, but the sound was really off. We couldn't hear what he was saying at all. So that was a little bit less than effective. And Laura mentioned the chainsaw scene at the end. Loved it last year. Thought it was really good. It seemed to have lost a little bit of its effectiveness this year. Conceptually, it's still the same, but execution-wise, I'm not really sure. Also, the buses. Good idea, the shuttle bus, but it is actually a long ride. It's probably about 10 minutes between where you pick up the shuttle and where you go to Midnight Terror. And there was only one actor on each bus that we were aware of. Might be more effective if more actors were on there, perhaps, or if they did a little bit of a routine or something, because it's difficult for one actor to stay in character all that time during dull sections on the bus. So if you're going to continue to use the shuttle buses, it might be something to think about. But overall, best year yet for Midnight Terror. As a haunt itself, I'm going to give it 4 chainsaws, but I will throw in an extra half a chainsaw for the actor that kept following us and the other actors, including the crazy man, who were very well done in character. So 4.5 overall for me. I just want to see how long you'll last before you ask me when I'm going to start. Blooper reel. All right. It keeps fading in and out. And so are you.